One of the most important things that you need to know before you make the move up to Boise, Idaho is how to avoid some of the major mistakes that people can make that just lead to issues down the road, regrets, buyer's remorse. Those are not what you want to be dealing with. But the good thing is, as somebody who helps people make this move every single day, a lot of these major issues, they can be resolved on the front end with some very minor extra thinking. So if you're thinking about making a move up to the Boise, Idaho area, but you're the type of person that no matter how much prep, how much thinking, how much work you put in on the front end, you know you're just going to be stressed out about what did you miss? What did you not even think about? What are you going to regret down the road? This video, my hope is going to help kind of assuage some of those fears by giving you some actionable relocation tips. And the first big tip that I have for you has to do with kind of the biggest issue that people run into. And whenever I hear of people really regretting their move or not really finding that the place that they're calling home is what they thought it was, it all comes back to where they chose to set up. You all know it's the most cliche thing in real estate: location, location, location. And choosing the right location is the number one most important thing you need to think about when you're moving up to a new area. I start with this one because I know it sounds so obvious when you're early in your journey. Of course, we're gonna decide if a certain place is actually right for us and it's gonna give us the lifestyle that we're looking for. But over the years, I've just noticed that people do a lot of that thinking at the beginning. They kind of fall in love with Idaho. They fall in love with Boise as a general idea. And once they do that, they really get stuck in all of the moving parts that happen with a relocation. They really get hung up on all of the little to-dos that you need to do on the way. And they skip over the research that is necessary to really choose the specific neighborhood, suburb that's gonna be best for you. So my first tip, or a little bit of homework, is something that I have clients do all the time. Over the next couple of weeks, just start to keep track of what you actually do in your day-to-day life. When you're commuting to and from work, how long does that actually take? Are you stopping at any coffee shops? Are you picking up dinner every single night? When you're running errands, where are you stopping at? Do you go to craft stores a lot? Do you go to a certain grocery store? Do you like to have multiple options? How often are you going out for dinner, drinks? What do you like to do with the kids on the weekend? What are their hobbies like? Just start to think about these things, because when we're in our day-to-day life, we kind of glance over them. It's our routine, it's what we're used to. And when somebody like me asks you, hey, what are you looking for in the place that you're gonna call home? You're gonna list out all of these things about the place that you wanna be at. It doesn't matter where you're at in the journey for you to do this. If you do it too early, you cannot overthink where you're gonna call home. If you're a little bit closer and you're really getting to the end of that journey, then just make sure that you're calling the right place. You want to be an Eagle. You're not just falling in love with Eagle because some random guy on YouTube said it was cool. One of the main pros of our area is, even though we are a capital city kind of metro area, we are still very small compared to a lot of places, both on population, but also just on geographical size. And because of this, every single suburb is gonna have a very different feel. Boise, Eagle, Meridian, Nampa, you know the list. They're all gonna offer a very different type and just feel of life. And then once you dial in on the actual suburb, the same thing can be said about the neighborhoods. What sorts of amenities are you looking at? Where exactly are they located in the proximity to what you actually wanna do? I know that this can sound extremely overwhelming, especially when you're looking at it from afar. You're not in this location, so there's only so much you can see through videos, through blogs, etc. So of course, I highly recommend make a trip out here, do a visit that is just focused on the lifestyle, just focused on what you actually want to do, see each of these towns in person. But I also know that getting that visit scheduled can take some time. So in the description, all of my information is there. Shoot me an email and I'll send you just a free, no strings attached relocation guide. It has very detailed breakdowns of every single suburb, the things to do, what they offer you. It can really just help you start to narrow that focus and figure out what places may be of interest, what places are just absolutely not. And on this same thread, the shameless plug, I am a licensed agent up in the area, but in this kind of move, this is where somebody like me, whether you choose to use me or somebody else, this is where they can give you the most value, because they can help you choose that right city. But then each of the neighborhoods, if you choose Eagle, Legacy, Riverstone, Two Rivers, they're all gonna offer very different lifestyles. And you want somebody who is actually here and is a local who knows something. So be sure to use them for that resource, because they absolutely should have the information that you need. One other note on kind of choosing the right area and thinking about what your current life looks like and what you want that future life to look like is a lot of times commuting. So if you're coming from a big urban area, let's say Los Angeles, for example, you might be used to Traveling one way for work, it takes you an hour, hour and a half, depending on what kind of rush hour you hit. So it happens all the time when people are up here. I kind of ask, what is your radius going to be? How close to your new job do you want to be? And they say, oh, I'm used to an hour commute, so I can be within an hour. You might be used to it, but first, do you actually want to have that commute, or would you like to shrink it? Our traffic up here is 100 times better than a lot of the bigger cities out there. But the big question is, if you're gonna make the move up here, do you want to be stuck with the same commute? Or would you like to be home just a little bit quicker? Do you want to spend less time in the car? But this also has to do with those amenities that you like to do, the things that I was talking about earlier. Do you want that coffee shop to be within 5 to 10 minutes if you're going there every single weekend? Or when you're looking at a map, are you like, hey, we're okay driving 30 minutes for that? No, you're not. You're not going to do it quite as much. Now, moving on to the second kind of theme of issues or regrets that I see people have, has a lot to do with, again, one of the big pros of our area, the lifestyle and the community that can be offered to you up here in Boise. I see it all the time that people are moving from larger cities and they're coming up here really excited about being in a smaller area. They want less traffic. They want cleaner cities. They want all of the pros that come with just a smaller population. But they also forget about all the things that that larger city offered you that aren't going to be here for the time being and who knows into the future. A lot of times this has to do with nightlife. Our nightlife here is not popping. We have got a little bit of stuff down in downtown Boise, of course, but you are not going to find extensive clubs, bars all throughout the valley. Same thing if you're into some sort of attraction, amusement park, pro sports teams. There are things that we just don't offer here yet because we haven't gotten to that size. So if you've got season tickets to a couple of pro sports franchises where you're coming from, you do that all the time. Just know that's not going to be offered up here. But there, of course, are ways to kind of get that fix. Boise State is our local university and people are huge fans of them. We're season ticket holders of both football and basketball, and we absolutely love it. The Idaho Steelheads are our minor league hockey team right in the heart of Boise, and they are some of the most fun games you can go to. But also do some research into the healthcare that you're needing. Odds are you're gonna find the healthcare or the specialist that you need here in the area somewhere, but the number of options that you have or the proximity to them might be a little bit more selective than the city that you might be coming from. There are just a lot of things that come with that slower pace of life, that smaller city feel, that are gonna be awesome, but it's gonna take a little bit of adjustment. And then on the community front, you really do have a special opportunity to kind of find your tribe up here in Boise, but you definitely have to be the one to do the research and put in the work. You've heard all about the people up here in Idaho, the locals. They just absolutely despise relocators. They're ruining everything. That gets blown out of proportion. It's a lot of really loud people. Do not worry about it. Most people up here are extremely welcoming and nice, but with us being a little bit of a smaller city than some of those larger metro areas, finding your tribe, making connections doesn't happen on accident quite as easily as it does in those places. So you have to just make sure that you're a little bit more intentional with it. Get out there, find the people that you need, make sure that your kids are getting into the hobbies that they want. And then on this lifestyle community front, and this is not going to be a long political tangent, so do not come for me in the comments, but know that if you're moving up here, it's very common that people are moving from a blue state, they're coming up to Idaho, really excited about how conservative and how red it is up here. Just remember and be prepped that that's a very different way of life than what you might be coming from. And Idaho itself is one of the most extreme on one ends of the spectrum that there is. So yes, there are a lot of things around the personal freedoms, the Second Amendment, all of these things that lead people to really fall in love with Idaho. And that's going to be very exciting until you go to that first farmer's market, you go to that first meal, you're in some public place, and all of a sudden everybody's carrying around guns. It can be a little bit of the shock to the system. So this isn't saying whether that's right or wrong. It's just saying that if you're not used to seeing that, the first time you do, the first time your kids do, it can just be a little bit of a surprise. So just be ready for it. And then with that shift in the political landscape, know that things like taxes up here, our taxes are extremely low, but we also have some pretty crappy infrastructure. Some of that stuff is related. It happens a lot where people come up, they fall in love, taxes are just absolutely fantastic, they love it, but then all of a sudden they're a little bit concerned with why the infrastructure isn't getting the funding they need, schools, etc., etc. Just know that things are run differently up here, and there are a lot of pros with that, but there are pros of the system that you're coming from as well. And just know that when you're leaving that, be conscious of kind of what you're leaving so that when you get up here, you don't completely think that you made the wrong call. And then the other big one with the political kind of landscape that I hear from people all the time, and this can be a little bit more specific, but thinking about medical care and just the whole mindset around it. If you're somebody that needs extremely strong maternal medical care, you're thinking about kids, maybe you've had a complicated pregnancy in the past, know that up here in the area, we're having a big time, a big struggle keeping OBs. They are not supported in the way up here. That has a lot to do with the political landscape, wherever you fall on that spectrum. But the reality is that a lot of those have left. It's not to say that there aren't quality OBs up here, but that sort of supply and just the vastness of the providers might be a little bit harder to find than what you're used to. Or whatever you believe about vaccines and kind of how you want to handle your kids, know that up here, that personal freedom, again, it's one of those big pros. You might have your kids around a lot of people that are unvaccinated. That's their call, but you need to know that compared to some of the places that you're coming from, you just never had to think about it. So again, not getting on a soapbox, not trying to get off on a tangent. The main takeaway of that is just know that you're leaving somewhere because of what you see as the current situation. You're coming up here because you want something new. Spend some time thinking about all the pros and cons of that and just knowing that the lifestyle, it's gonna be different. It's not saying that it's bad or worse. It's just saying that it might be a little bit of a shock to the system because it is just a different way of life. Okay, but moving on away from the politics of it, let's talk a little bit about the mistakes in the actual home buying process. So these are gonna be very quick, very actionable. The first big one is don't wait until the last second to think about how you're gonna buy a home. So often people, especially when they're financing a purchase, they think they're way too early in the process. They're really worried about their credit being pulled by a lender and having it ding their score too much. And there is a wildly odd correlation between people who kind of say, we are not there yet and don't think about that financing, with the people who come up here, fall in love with the perfect home. They want to move on it. We haven't quite gotten that other part figured out yet. Now you're in a little bit of a delay, and nothing sucks more than losing out on the thing that you absolutely want just because you kind of skipped a step. You'll hear me say it all the time. I follow your timeline. I'm not here to pressure you in any way, but talking to somebody, at least getting the ball rolling, it is worth doing it. You cannot do it too early. And also remember that the credit pull, it really doesn't make as big of an impact as people tend to think. You can get pre-approved by as many as you want in a certain time frame. It hits it once, and it only takes a few months for it to bounce right back. And there are times where it only dings a couple of points off. It's not going to make that kind of detrimental effect that people kind of are worried about. Second, when you get under contract, if you're here, if you're coming from somewhere else, no matter what your past experience is, no matter how handy you think you are, do not overlook that home inspection. Pay the money, get a third-party inspector in there. If they get in and they find absolutely no issues, or let's say that it flips into a really hot seller's market again, seller's not going to want to make any repairs. At a minimum, getting an inspector in, you know what you're getting into. They can find something absolutely major. That way you're not stuck with a bad situation. Or they find absolutely nothing and it was quote unquote a waste of money, but now you have that clean bill of health. You know that everything you can't see, it allows you to sleep a little bit easier. And on that same thread, don't go out and just making offers willy-nilly based off what your market is, where you're coming from. Every single state, every single metro area has a very different real estate market. And of course, this is where I come in, but whether you use me, whether you don't, you use somebody else, you don't use anybody, take some time to understand what is this market actually telling you. Because it happens all the time when you're leaving a place where potentially people just aren't really flocking there. It's a very strong buyer's market. You're having to give concessions on your home sale. So then you come up here and you're expecting the sellers up here to do the same. But over the last few years, we've been one of the hottest markets out here. So even though you're dealing with that in whatever state you're coming from, you come up here, sellers aren't given those concessions. And if you're really thinking of that and that's your expectation coming in, one, you're just going to be thoroughly disappointed. But the most important thing is you might miss out on the absolute perfect home and kind of getting that ball rolling just because you had a different kind of lens that you were looking through it and you never noticed that that lens is off until it's a little bit too late and now you're kind of comparing every future home to the one that got away. And finally, make sure to take some time and actually budget out and look at all of the small little costs that are gonna come up throughout the process. You're gonna have to pay movers. There's gonna be different things that you just have to do along the way. The house price and kind of what you'd be paying, of course, that is the big thing. We talk a lot about cost of living on this channel, but there are so many small little things along the way that can start to add up pretty quick. So just make sure, think through the process, start to think about, okay, what are we actually gonna be spending from now until we get there? Make sure to spend some time thinking about all of the small little important documents that you got to get updated. When are you going to get your new license plate, your driver's license, keeping insurance in the loop, making sure utilities wherever you're coming from get out of your name, but also that you have them set up here, getting your internet, all of the small things that if you've bought a home, you've gone through before. But absolutely nothing is worse than making the move up here, getting to the home, starting to move in, and realizing that crap, we forgot to call the power company. Well, now your house doesn't have power, so of course that has its own issue, but now you get a fun little $200 bill from Idaho Power saying we have to come turn on your electricity. It's small things like that that are so easy to avoid, but dang, they suck when they happen. And that leads to that final tip, and I've said it a couple of times, I am the local expert, so this is a little bit self-serving, but make sure to reach out to local experts in the area that you're looking for, both on the real estate side. I am here to be your relocation guide. I'm here to help you through the entire process. Make sure you don't forget about turning on that power, but also to make sure to talk to your attorney about any sort of legal things that are changing, talking to your accountant about what does the tax look like here versus there. If you own a small business, how does that impact things? Financial advisor, reach out to the experts, make sure that they're helping you with this process. And don't be afraid to make a new connection with somebody local just because there are little quirks every single place. And on that real estate relocation front, if I said all of this and you have any sort of questions about you and your specific situation, all of my information is down below. Shoot me a call, text, email, whatever works best for you. I'd absolutely love to chat and just kind of give you the answer that you need. And if you made it through this video this far, thank you so much for watching. Obviously, you might have learned something. The video didn't absolutely suck. So hit that subscribe button down below. That way you're the first to know everything you need to know about moving up here to the Boise, Idaho area. But until then, watch one of these videos that's popping up, and I'll see you all on the next one.